Flamingo chef, show us what you got with cocktails and dishes that hit the sweet spot.
It's cold outside. When it's cold outside, I want comfort food. And to me, comfort food is beef stew. You know, after starting the day by cleaning 6 inches of snow off the driveway, and it's in the 20s outside, beef stew just sounds fantastic. And I love beef stew. But there's something I love about it, and that is it gives you the opportunity to clean out your pantry because you can put anything in it. So let's look at what I've come up with. Obviously, we need beef. So this is about a 3-pound bottom round roast, and all I'm going to do is cut this into pieces and cut the fat off. I'm going to need canned whole tomatoes. That's going to be the base of the stew. If you want to use fresh tomatoes, go ahead. This is what I had. Beef broth. I had some sitting in the refrigerator. Perfect use for it. I need some peas and green beans and corn, and I just happen to have a bag of each one in the freezer. Let's get them out of there. I like celery in my base. This is fresh celery. I'm not going to use very much, but there it is. Need an onion. I had some yellow onions that were getting to the end of their life. Perfect use for one of those. Speaking of onions, these green onions were looking pretty pathetic, and they were going to get thrown in the trash. So I'm going to cut this part off and use that as well. Carrots. I had 2 bags of carrots, both of which are open for some reason. So we'll use those. I had a red bell pepper that was starting to look a little pathetic. Might as well use it instead of throwing it away. Garlic butter to cook everything in. And then I had just like 4 yellow potatoes left and a new bag of russet potatoes. So we use some of each. How I'm going to start is by cutting up the meat and prepping my vegetables. And once that's all done, then we will brown the meat and start cooking everything in the same pot. I'm not going to make you watch me cut up meat and vegetables. I've got my roast all cut up, ready to cook, but while I was cutting it, I cut off all of this beautiful beef fat. Now, while I'm preparing the vegetables, I'm going to render this beef fat down and cook in it. So I've got that pot set on medium. While I'm preparing my vegetables, I'm just going to let that fat cook down. All right, all my vegetables are cut. Everything's ready to go. This fat is rendered down, and I'm going to take the fatty meat out of here. Now I've got that nice beef fat on the bottom of the pan. I'm going to turn my pan up to medium, and I'm going to get started with some garlic butter. I've added about a tablespoon of garlic butter into the bottom of the pan just to give it some good surface to cook on. And I'm working that together with the beef fat so that it all incorporates as a cooking surface. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my beef in here first because I want to get a little browning on that meat. Not a lot, just enough that it absorbs some of that good fat from the beef fat, and it's just a little bit of color. I don't want that to cook all the way. I just want to get a little color on some of the meat, so we're ready. You got to keep in mind what cooks the slowest and what's going to take the longest. So your carrots and your potatoes are going to have to cook the longest. So I'm going to go ahead and put the potatoes and the carrots into the pan. This is a half of a yellow onion and just the little stems of those green onions. It's going to go in there as well. That's 1 celery stalk and that red bell pepper that I had laying around. They're going to go in there also. I'm just going to kind of move this stuff around so everything mixes together. Okay, I'm going to add a little seasoning to this, and you can season this however you like. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm also going to put in about a teaspoon of thyme. I like a little cumin in stew, and the reason is it's cold weather food. I like that comfort sensation. So about a teaspoon of cumin. Keep in mind the only liquid in here at the moment is the liquid that's actually coming off the fat of the beef. So now we need to add some liquid. It's a box of beef broth that I had sitting in the refrigerator, and I'm just going to go ahead and dump the whole thing in there. At this point, with this much material that needs to cook down, it's kind of easier to move it around with tongs. And I'm just trying to incorporate everything. And I'm going to let this sit here and simmer for a little while before I add tomatoes and my frozen vegetables. This has come up to a nice simmer. I've let it simmer for a few minutes now. And and you're starting to see some color form, which is exactly what I want. So now what I'm going to do is start adding the tomatoes, and I'm just going to break them up by hand in the pot. You can do it with a pair of scissors, or if you want to put on gloves or whatever. My hands are clean. It's the way I prefer to do it. I am going to use the juice that's in the can, so I'm just going to dump these in here, and then just carefully, so I don't spray them all over the counter, kind of break them up. And I'm going to do this with both cans of tomatoes. With both cans of tomatoes in here, I'm just going to start to bring all this stuff together. And I'm using the tongs just because it's easy to move it with that right now. I have the heat on medium-high because this is going to come up to a boil here in a minute, and then I'm going to drop the temperature down. At this point, I'm ready to add my frozen vegetables. A bag of frozen peas, a bag of frozen corn, a bag of green beans. Just mixing all this together, moving stuff that's on the bottom to the top. As you can see, my pot is full. All right. I am now going to lower the heat, put a cover on, and let this thing do its thing for most of the rest of the day. Checking it occasionally, making sure it's not boiling over, and most importantly, that nothing's getting stuck to the bottom. It spent most of the day cooking. It smells amazing in here. And it's still ridiculously cold outside. Although the sun came out and it's melting some of the snow. Now, it's time to ladle some of this stuff up. Now, when you cook this all day, those potatoes will break down and it'll create the starch in there that binds this all together. But I like some liquid in my stew. So, that's what it looks like. You know, the greatest thing about beef stew is you can cook it however you want. There are no rules here. You can put anything in it that you wanted. And if you want peppers and all that stuff in it, lima beans, whatever makes you happy, then do that. But I promise you that's going to taste good. Till next time, if there's something you'd like me to make, if you have a question, comment, put it here in the comments on the video. Shoot me an email, bill@kansasflamingochef.com. Drop by the website, kansasflamingochef.com. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next one.
In the heart of Kansas, under sky so clear, lives a chef with a flair, bringing folks some cheer. With a pinch of love and a dash of zest, he's the Kansas Flamingo, and his meals are the best.